Welcome to the Rafael Cintron Ortiz Latino Cultural Center's 45th anniversary. Established in 1976, the Latino Cultural Center, also known as the LCC, was the first cultural center at the University of Illinois at Chicago, UIC. The center was born out of a mid-1970s movement which also sparked the emergence of the Latin American and Latino Studies program, also known as LALS, in 1974, and the Latin American Recruitment and Educational Services program, also known as LATES, in 1975. The LCC emerged as the third pillar of this movement, thanks to visionary Latinx students, faculty, staff, and community members, who fought tirelessly for a cultural center to support the academic growth of the increasing Latinx student population on campus. The LCC was named after the late Rafael Cintron Ortiz, a Puerto Rican professor who unconditionally supported the creation of the center and was an inspirational figure to students on campus.
The Latino Cultural Center engages campus and local communities to deepen understanding of the diverse cultural heritage and identities of Latinxes, issues affecting their lives, and creative solutions they are using to improve community life. The LCC offers engaged learning opportunities that feature cultural and artistic expressions, intercultural and civic dialogues, scholarly presentations, and first voice stories. Today, the LCC is one of the 7 centers for cultural understanding and social change, and we work together on many initiatives to bring people together on campus.
The LCC houses the largest contemporary indoor mural in Chicago, called El Despertar de las Américas, or The Awakening of the Americas, painted in 1996 by Hector Duarte and UIC students. This living mural features themes that continue to be relevant to us today. The Latino Cultural Center offers social and environmental justice civic dialogues and mural tours to connect UIC course material to community challenges and solutions. The LCC connects UIC campus with community leaders, artists, and cultural institutions through public programs including Zona Abierta, Civic Cinema, Noche de Poetas, Artivism, and special programs.
The LCC staff coordinates and supervises internships for the LEAD, Create, Change, and Heritage Garden programs, and lends its expertise in collaborative grant-based projects including Latinos Latinas Gaining Access to Networks and Advancement in Science, Las Ganas, and Cultural Immersion for Monarch and Milkweed Advancing Science Education, CIMAS. Both initiatives focus on STEM Latinx students and the connections between their cultural heritage and science.
Well, it's been phenomenal because as an educator, as a teacher, and now as an administrator, I have really relied on the LCC and the programming that it hosts and the community building that it does for so many things, ranging from sort of, strongly encouraging my students to engage. And for many of my students, especially the first or second years, from that first visit that I require them to do, it's just a first step towards them really, learning so much about experiential education, about community, them coming back to me and say, I went to this great program, and I don't remind them that I required them to go. And then a year or two later, they're really engaged with LCC and all the programming. So that's always exciting to see how the LCC helps our students develop. And then as an administrator, the LCC has been a partner for a lot of different advocacy for all kinds of issues, including sustainability, climate justice, immigrant students, and documented immigrants, and to partner with them in those things. Sometimes because we're partnering in a campaign to stop a student from being deported or to pass a bill. I know I can always count on the LCC to have the best interest of students at heart and to really be at the core of social justice for our campus. And to me, those things are essential. And I know I can always count on the LCC for that.
The most visible evidence of our work together is the Heritage Garden that is funded through the sustainability fee that my office oversees. And just seeing that, we did talk about transformation and things that have changed over time, and it is such a visible change in the exterior, campus exterior, in terms of how the land use has changed, and just that integration of that program has really been key to my kind of, again, how I think about space and the opportunity to use the campus as a learning lab for sustainability, and connecting it to UIC's mission in serving, diverse communities. And I think that's a testimony also to the Heritage Garden program and how it empowers students to be activists and to take to be involved. And I have a great respect for everyone there and for the work.
There are so many memories I have of the center that are so special. But I think that one that I really, every time I think about it, gets to my heart is one time when we had as a guest, and we were bringing her to speak at UIC, Rosa Cabrera, who's an undocumented activist from New York. And we arrived at the LCC at a moment where it wasn't necessarily like anything that we had programmed. We would be there at that time. We were kind of walking by, and I was eventually going to bring her to the center. And there were all these people outside of the center, all these students and faculty, and they were releasing a monarch butterfly. And a student there was talking about the meaning of the monarch and the relationship with migration and with community and with belonging. And then she released the monarch, and it was just a really, really magical moment. I don't think if I could have planned for Angie to see something so emblematic of what can happen at the center when people come together and create something together. I couldn't have chosen a better moment. It was very, very special and a very moving moment.
The UIC Heritage Garden is an internship program here on campus that's an initiative of the Centers for Cultural Understanding and Social Change. It's an internship that uses horticulture to explore the different ways that cultural diversity, environmental sustainability, and social justice go together. Our students maintain 8 satellite gardens here on the east side of campus. They take care of all the plants, they harvest the seeds, which they then later distribute to community members, and they put on public programs to share the knowledge that they've learned with the UIC community as well as the community at large.
I was the chair of the search committee to bring in Rosa. So she probably remembers that. And these were the conversations that Rosa would have. So what is the, what is the cultural center? What is it that I can expect to happen? What will its impact be on the university? And stuff like that. So Rosa has been there, she's been there for a healthy long time. And I think she's done kind of like an incredible job, to be honest. But I really like what Rosa has put on the table with regards to climate issues. And I really like what Rosa has done with bringing in all of the sorts of community groups that are associated with those kinds of issues. I like particularly what's happened with the community gardens, the plants, the planting of plants, medicinal kinds of issues, traditional culture kinds of issues, all of those sorts of things.
Happy celebration, everyone watching this video. I am Rosa Cabrera, director of the UIC Rafael Cintron Ortiz Latino Cultural Center, or the LCC as we call it. With great honor We are celebrating 45 years of remarkable creativity, supporting students' curiosity for learning, expanding their skills and knowledge to create community solutions and collective action, and supporting their journey, defining their own identities and feeling connected to UIC. Reflecting on the past 5 years, 18 months which have been shaped by COVID and changed the way we learn, work, and live, the story that emerges is one of courage, gratitude, hardship, and resistance to social and environmental injustices that continue to affect the life of our students, their families, and the communities they call home. At the LCC, our flexibility and creativity was put to test as we had to shift our student support to online formats, and the LCC staff team did an outstanding job transitioning our programs to virtual interactions. Staying relevant to issues affecting the life of our students and community has become more central than ever. So one of our focus has been helping students better understand the interconnection between environment, climate change, and social issues like immigration, health disparities, lack of decent housing and jobs, just to name a few. And at the same time, provoking them to think about how their field of study and their cultural and personal assets can be harnessed to propel social and environmental justice. This work has been accomplished through fruitful collaborations in grant-based projects like Las Ganas, CIMAS, and Climates of Inequality with community partners, plus our Civic Dialogues Initiative, public presentations, and 2 internship programs, the Lead Create Change and the Heritage Garden. All these achievements in the past 5 years wouldn't have been attainable if the LCC didn't have a dedicated staff team and the support of UIC faculty, staff, community partners, and first and foremost, our students, who exemplify the unique character of UIC, where the LCC stands as a pillar supporting the academic growth of our Latinx students, as well as all other students on campus. Felicitaciones to the LCC.
So Las Ganas has a very close relationship with the LCC because of the cultural dialogues. So you already had started doing dialogues with students about identity, about culture, about interactions with other groups, about environmental issues. And staff within the LCC developed these important and actually unique interactions with our students called the cultural dialogues around science identity. And so we've had a very strong and powerful and impactful relationship with students as a result of that interaction. The basis of the cultural dialogues has been to promote or emphasize to students that their work in science is not to be apart from their cultural identity or their cultural heritage, but rather that culture is an asset that they can bring to the scientific world as they engage in science-based activities. And so many students have shared their first-time awareness that others like them have conducted science, that they can really contribute themselves to science, and that, again, their identity is not to be separate from that of being a scientist or a science producer. And so these dialogues have also helped in the conversations related to intergenerational issues or at times stressors.
The role of the LCC and CMAS is is equal, if not more important than all of us biologists and chemists working on it, because without the input and the programming and the, all that the LCC contributes, we would not have a program. It would just be kind of a science curriculum and nothing really new, nothing really innovative. So I think that the LCC is CMOS, and CMOS would not exist without the LCC. The contributions of the LCC have really made it possible for me to pursue this idea of incorporating monarchs and milkweeds into science classes and to make these great cultural connections and linking heritage and students what they're bringing from their own backgrounds, what they're bringing as important and just as important as what the scientists are bringing, and allowing them ways to connect to their heritage, and that would not be possible without the LCC.
It was a place for a lot of personal inner growth for me, but it was also a place where I learned as a student and as a professional. I had the opportunity to work there for many years, and so I learned different principles and values that I mentioned earlier, right? Like the principle of collaboration, of empathy. The LCC really prepared me to be in different spaces that I might not be familiar with, right? Or I might not necessarily initially belong to those places, but it prepared me to be able to have an open mind and just to immerse myself in the work of diversity.
I feel like one of the things that I learned was to be critical and open-minded. We had a lot of really tough conversations at the LCC, ranging from immigration to environmental rights to just, student life. And it was a great space for people to open up. But at the same time, it challenged everything that you knew. I think I'm very thankful for having found the LCC when I did.
Every time I get a chance to go back, I feel that I'm back at home, and that feeling has never gone away. And I think one of the advice that I give to incoming students is to really becoming involved in the cultural center and all the programs and activities that the cultural center puts together, because it really shaped my great experience and was really a fundamental part of my experience as a student at UIC.
Para mí, el Centro Cultural Latino representa un espacio de identificación y de conexión con la realidad de la comunidad estudiantil en Chicago y la comunidad de Pilsen, ¿no? El mural con el que cuenta el Centro Cultural, pues es un mural de Héctor Duarte, un artista michoacano que está y que vive ahí en Pilsen. Entonces, para mí es como esta conexión de un espacio de información, de educación, de conocimiento, de progreso y de oportunidad. Que hay arte, que el arte es una parte muy importante dentro de la comunidad y que es una herramienta que nos ayuda muchas veces a quienes no somos precisamente artistas, pero a expresar, ¿no? Sentimientos, emociones, historias de vida. Entonces creo que es un espacio que te da confianza, es un espacio familiar, amigable, en un mundo desconocido, porque las universidades son sumamente desconocidas y una universidad puede ser caótica, pero es un espacio que brinda esta seguridad, esta comodidad y esta necesidad de tener de verte en un futuro, en un espacio como ese, ¿no? Que es el desarrollo dentro de una universidad.
When we painted the canvas that it's outside of the LCC with Maestro Duarte, just getting to work with him and just with all the different people that participated in that project was also a great memory for me.
Es necesario, es indispensable, debería no desaparecer, debería al contrario agarrar más fuerza y tener más espacio o no sé, más recursos para apoyar y reforzar la cultura latina.
The LCC is without a doubt one of the premier cultural institutions in the city of Chicago. And over time, LCC has proven that there can be a real Chicago cultural center in the heart of the university.
My favorite overall memory is like being educated on something, given a real life example of identifying it, and then like acting on what I learned. Like that whole stage of execution is just so empowering. I loved like the field trips that I did with the Heritage Garden, and I loved like the events that we would do at the LCC because they're just so like groundbreaking. All the people I met, yeah. I just love the education. Like it's just like a really it's like a hub for education and like social consciousness. It just raised my vibration.
Having the LCC as an ally, right, at UIC has definitely also given us a sense of like, you know, we have all these allies, we have all these other larger scale institutions that see our work, that value our work, that value you know, the campaign and the changes that we are pushing for. So that has definitely been a major highlight in our working relationship between El Vejo and the LCC. I think the partnerships that the LCC has made and continues to keep, right, is definitely an avenue for Chicago residents or, you know, beyond Chicago to really also get to know the history of the LCC, how and why it was established, and its influence that it has outside of university walls.
As a convener of a collaborative ourselves, our job is to pool together our partners' talents, resources, and time. And so the LCC being a partner at the table has definitely contributed a lot of their time, their staff time, their resources, their expertise. And so when we work to align the system between CPS schools and Little Village to UIC, the LCC is an advocate at the table for our Little Village students and their families. For me, that's what the LCC represents. It's a space that builds community, that fosters learning in community, and that ultimately leads to the diversity and inclusion work that as a nation we're trying to live up to.
What's beautiful about the LCC is like the team. I think that I've learned how a team works, more specifically the day-to-day interactions, but also I think that it's beyond like teamwork, but also like building a culture in the office that's more centered around family. So that's something that I learned, and that's something that as a young professional of color, that's something that I strive, and something that I learned is to have that teamwork that the LCC staff has.
So with respect to the anniversary, but also the current staff, and as I said, in particular in the last, I would say 5 to 8 years, if I had a hat, I would tip it to you. I think that you are doing great work. I think that you are deeply and honestly committed to the success of the people that you work with. I thank you for all the work you do. Happy birthday or feliz cumpleaños.
I think that the LCC is a great place for students to stop and learn a little bit, not only about themselves, but the community around them. So congratulations on 45. And I hope you have many, many more anniversaries to celebrate.
Such important institutions like the Latino Culture Center that was established because there was a real need for cultura on campus and to know the meanings behind our cultures and to know the importance, right? And to bring our knowledge that we have from our communities, from our ancestors to the classroom. So I wish that the LCC continues to do that the LCC continues to get all the resources they need to make sure that the work continues. I'm just sending the LCC a feliz cumpleaños, happy 45th anniversary.
I just want to say to the LCC that I am super excited for your anniversary. I think the longevity is not only evidence of how important and how firm the foundation of what the LCC is and who the LCC is, but to combine that longevity with that kind of dynamic ability to always be changing, to always be learning from the UIC community and teaching the UIC community means that the center is always at the cutting edge of sort of the concerns of all our UIC community, intersectional as well as Latino communities, and of what's going on in Chicago. To be dynamic and engaged in community in that rich way for over 45 years, and at the same time to have that history, to be a pillar of this campus, to be a source of, both historical knowledge, but as well as sort of contemporary experience and also futuristic in your thinking. All those things together are what make the LCC so unique and so special. So congratulations. Happy anniversary, LCC. Thank you for teaching us so much about community, dialogue, connection, justice, all those things that are so, so important. And I look forward to continuing to work with you and partner with you and support you for your next 45 years.
Once again, congratulations. And as they say in my culture, in Jewish culture, for 100 years, you should live to be 120.
I've been at UIC for almost 30 years now, and it's hard to believe that there's been a campus organization that's been here 15 years longer than I have. And so my wishes for the LCC are to keep up all the good work and all the contributions you make to the campus. And another 45 years isn't enough, but I hope you're around and doing all of your great programming for well into the future.
My anniversary wishes, I wish that the LCC continues forever and forever and forever and forever. I hope that the LCC is always getting what it needs and it's always going to be provided for because it's always providing for others.
Y seguir adelante con la visión que refleja el Centro Cultural y el Latino, porque yo siento que esa es la esencia de lo que es nuestra raza, nuestras razas acá, de nuestras naciones en este país, es que procurar que haya más profesionistas. Ese es el principal punto. Si no se hace eso, entonces estamos fallando para el futuro. Pero felicidades.
UIC y el Centro Cultural Latino ha sido para mí un espacio de desafío, pero también de mucho apapacho. Y a todo el personal agradecerle siempre porque son muy humanos, muy afectivos y su liderazgo siempre ha sido importante en nuestras comunidades, en los espacios que trabajamos. Así es que felicitarles y muchas gracias por el espacio.
Muchas felicidades, and I really hope that you all continue the work that you're doing, centering Latinx voices, and continue doing the work that a lot of those would be afraid to do.
Happy anniversary. I am very proud and very happy that I have been able to spend much of these last few years learning about the work you do, seeing the work you do, and understanding what it is. And all I can say is keep it up. Adelante, por favor.
So here's to the LCC and their 45 years.
Feliz aniversario. Happy anniversary, HCC.
On September 27, 1973, 39 students, university employees, and other members of the Latino community were arrested after participating in a sit-in at University Hall. They demanded the university administration acknowledge the need for Latino recruitment, retention, and cultural programs. In the early 1980s, the LCC was relocated from a small locker room in UH to Lecture Center B2 near the Quad. Then, in 1985, the mural, Our Essence, Our Presence, was painted by 3 students from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. It depicted the history of Latin America before and after colonization and the Latino experience in the United States. In the early 1990s, the center hired its first director and in 1994 underwent renovations and expansion to include basement offices and a student computer lab. After the destruction of the first mural, the center embarked on a campaign to develop a new mural in the mid-90s, 1994 to 1996. Chicago muralist Hector Duarte was selected to lead the project and engage Latinx students in the process. The mural was called El Despertar de las Américas.
In 2011, Dr. Rosa Cabrera was hired as the director of the LCC. Maestro Hector Duarte was commissioned to restore the mural and paint a new section representing a global citizen. In 2012, the Cultural Centers changed their collective name from Centers for Diversity to Centers for Cultural Understanding and Social Change, CCUSC. The centers are committed to student success, intercultural engagement, vibrant scholarship, and dynamic community partnerships. In 2013, the Heritage Garden Internship Program was established by the CCUSC. Between 2015 and 2016, the center joined the Fearless and Documented Alliance, a student organization, and other community and statewide groups in support of the Student Access Bill. In 2015, as a culmination of a year-long series of public programming focused on chocolate, the LCC created an exhibition called Chocolate, Drink of Gods, Food of Mortals. In 2016, the traveling mural, Awakening Hearts, Changing Lives, was completed and currently resides on the outside of the LCC building. In 2019, the LCC presented in the first Stride, Strategies for Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Conference with CCUSC for academic support and student life addressing student recruitment and retention across UIC for marginalized students. The 2020-2021 academic year began amidst a global pandemic where COVID-19 forced universities across the country to operate under a stay-at-home order, thus leading the LCC to reimagine their public programs and initiatives in a virtual setting. The LCC initiated a COVID-19 masking project in collaboration with the Asian American Resource and Cultural Center, or ARC, that unpacks in a fun but thoughtful way how masks have become part of a new normal life around the world. This project aims to carry powerful ideas that transcend the individual through the acts of making, gifting, receiving, and wearing masks. The Climates of Inequality project inspired the current focus of our public programs. Our partnership with the Humanities Action Lab and local community organizations have allowed us to connect beyond our local story throughout the pandemic. Amidst the continuing Black Lives Matter protests, the LCC stands against white supremacy and all forms of racism, individual and institutional. Our communities must unite, today and always, to support our communities and work in community and solidarity to create a just campus for all people of color. Throughout the 2020-2021 academic year, while in a virtual setting, our LCC interns completed a visual and storytelling ethnography of COVID-19 Mapping Project in Latinx communities, answering the question, how is COVID-19 affecting Latinx communities in the Chicagoland area, and how is this intersecting with environmental pollution in their neighborhoods? To remember the past,
reflect on the present,
and envision a sustainable and socially just future.
Con mucho amor, happy anniversary!